See how I baited him into poking? Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Play Like a WAP Pro. This episode we're not going over any particular tips specifically. I'm just going to analyze two different replays. They have a little bit in common, but not really. The first will be in the Conq on Pilsen, and the second one will be in the Tortoise on Safe Haven. So I guess let's just get started with the first replay. Looking at the matchmaking, this isn't the best. It's not my favorite map, but I've actually been getting better at Pilsen recently in heavy tanks because I've learned when to push through here and make aggression in the city. I don't do that every battle, but I've recognized the situations where you should be able to do that. But in this matchmaking, since it's all tier 10s, I'm not going to play aggressively at the start. I'm just going to wait around and see where the enemy tanks get lit before I make any decisions to push or not. So I'm crossing into the city. It's technically slightly risky to take this route, but honestly I almost never get hit. As long as you move right away off spawn and you're not in something extremely slow, then you should be able to make it just fine. I decided not to shoot down this this wall with HE because shooting it down would just get me shot, and I wouldn't really be able to shoot them in return because I'm on the move. I decided to play this corner in the beginning. Now keep in mind there is one artillery, so I can't just hug this corner the entire time. I need to pull back from time to time. But like I said, I'm just starting off this game trying to figure out where the enemies are and to see if any of them will just donate me free HP basically. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I don't think much really happens. Only 2 tanks are lit. I see that the IS-7 is making pressure across, and I thought about crossing for a second, but I see that he's getting safe into this hull down here, and there's no way to dig him out once he gets in there. But then I see that this E-100 is just suiciding across the open field in the middle of the courtyard or whatever. So I'm just waiting for him to poke this because I'm pretty sure he will. When I see that he's not poking it, I decide to go a little bit more aggressive. Because I know that this guy is just a free snack for me if I can side scrape on him. Here I know he out reloads me, so I try to pull back a little bit, and I take a quick snapshot into his track, hoping that he won't hit me back, and he doesn't. That was a bad shot there, and I also probably didn't need to receive that hit, but it's not a big deal, to be honest. Now I'm just side scraping on him to try to avoid damage. He doesn't seem like the best player, so I'm not too concerned about angling super well or playing very passive. And this T-57 overexposes, so I get a free shot into him. Now I'm pretty sure he's not going to poke this again, so I just leave at this point. I decided to go back to that city because you really can't play the east flank in an S-Conq on this map. The only spot you can play is right here, but at this point rotating there would just be suicide because as you can see, we're losing the east flank. And even though we're up HP this game, we're losing map control, and so to me it's pretty clear that we're losing this game right now. There's still a chance to win, but it's not looking good. So when you're losing a game, you basically have 2 choices. You can either trade your HP on the flank that you're already at until you die, and I would only do that if you're down like 4 or 5k HP and you're gonna die really soon. But your other choice is to fall back into a safe position and try to farm enemies as they push in to get the final few kills. And that's what I'm going to be doing this game later on, as you'll see. The 60 TP decides to poke me for some reason. And watch what I do here. I over poke around the corner, and then I pull back, but I time it just perfectly so that he thinks I'm poking out, and he thinks he can get a free shot in, when in reality I'm just baiting him into poking so I can get another shot into him. And that's a useful tip that you should know in any tank you play, really. But you have to get the timing just right, otherwise you might get punished for it. Or if you pull back too early, then they won't fall for the bait. And luckily this guy's not a very good player either, so he fell for the bait. Now at all times during this game, I'm kind of keeping an eye out on what's happening on the east flank, because I already have a plan for what to do once they get behind us into this territory here. And you'll see what that is pretty soon. Here I decided to cross because, I don't know, I just expected the i7 to possibly peek. There wasn't really much to do on this corner anyway, so I just decided to go here. And luckily, for some reason, the i7 just drives completely in the open of the map. Now, one thing that I actually want to go back and show you is the fact that I aim for his track here. Now, it's just a kind of small thing and an obvious thing, but I see people just not do it all the time. When you're given a free opportunity to double track someone, you should take it. And in this case, I actually waited for his track to repair before firing, because I expected him to possibly use his repair kit on his kit, or use his repair kit on his tracks, and then if I shoot him again, then he's double tracked and he can't escape. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't work out in this case because he has hardening on his tank. Now, that's actually the main reason why I play with HP out of total HP, this setting. A lot of people will just play with only HP, so it will just say 1070. But the reason why I play with out of total HP is, first of all, you can see whether enemy tanks have a stock turret. Because if they have a stock turret, they'll have less HP. Total HP. And second of all, it tells you whether they have hardening or not, and that's important because you need to know whether or not you can track them with a one shot. Now in the case of an IS-7, whether or not I track him in one shot, I'm pretty sure is somewhat down to RNG, but I think more often than not I won't track him with one shot if his track is full HP. If you're wondering where to turn that on, the HP left out of total, it's just under marker, and then you go to our team or enemy team and you change this to HP left out of total. I would recommend it. It's not a huge thing, but it can help in some situations. Now here I try to go for a second track because his track should be damaged at this point, and so if I hit it again I'll perma-track him, but I just miss. Here I see that we're starting to lose the control of our east, so I'm thinking about falling back at this point. Because if you look at the city, what we have to play against, we have to play against a hull down Kron, a T110E3, and I don't even know what the last tank is, probably the 60 TP, but it doesn't really matter. The E3 is a big thing. We can't push this, unless all of our teammates gang up together and push this, which is just not going to happen in an uncoordinated random battle. There's no way we're going to be able to push through the city, so even though we're losing this game clearly, I can't just go trade my HP with enemy tanks over here before we get flanked. I don't really have that as an option. If these tanks were like mice or type 5 heavies, then that's probably what I would do. I would choose to push out one flank, because that's what you do when you're getting surrounded in World of Tanks. You try to push out one flank when possible, so that you don't get crossfired. So instead I opt to do the second thing that you can do when you're losing, which is to make distance and try to shoot enemies as they close the distance on you at the end of the game, when you're just one of the last tanks remaining. And since the Conq has insane DPM and good accuracy, I'm going to be able to farm a lot of damage as they close the distance, in theory. And this spot is a very good spot to know for just cell spawn in general if you're losing the east flank, because you can survive here for quite a while and farm quite a lot of damage before you inevitably go down. Let me speed this up a little bit. I think their EBR yellow is here. Yep. Take a terrible shot at him there. I should have aimed that longer just to make sure it hits. But here I hit a decent shot on him. And as you can see, their 268 hit me, which I did not expect because I was looking at the map and I thought our 268 was spotting this area here. This area here. But the 268 can actually play around this corner here and shoot me without getting lit. Now this is the point of the battle where you're down a few tanks, you're down 2,000 or 3,000 HP. This is when the enemies are going to start getting aggressive because they know that the game is getting over, is going to be over soon, especially enemies with lots of HP. And a lot of those enemies with lots of HP, they just simply don't care about their HP anymore, so they'll just give it away to you for free. So this is the stage of the battle where a lot of the time you can farm a lot of damage. So right now I'm just waiting for them to play aggressive, and here the Conq comes. He's just pushing out in the open, middle of the open. He sees me though and he stops, but you can tell he wants to push in. And he just gives me HP for free. This would never happen at the start of the game, usually. Unfortunately, I get unlucky and I bounce him, but what can you do? Now I'm trying to finish off this T-57, but I just miss him because I'm garbage. Now what I have to try to do is stay safe from one side while engaging the other side. So I see this Conq pushing up. If this guy gets above us, it's game over. I'm on a timer. Once he gets here, I'm on a timer, and I'm gonna die within like 40 seconds because he has great DPM. He's completely hulled down on me. I can't kill him. So I'm trying to double track this guy so he can't do that. But unfortunately, he repairs. So I'm not able to perma-track him. So now I'm on that 40-second timer, like I said, or around 40-second. So all I can do is try to deal as much damage as I can before I die. And here you see, again, I go for the tracks of the grill. That's one of the themes that's kind of in both of these replays, is tracking. There are a lot of moments in these two replays where I try to track enemies. And here you can see I'm trying to go for the E3. I'm trying to focus fire the E3 so that he can't come around the corner and kill me. If I kill him, that means I get 1 or 2 more shots off on these guys. If I don't kill him, I could just die here instantly. To the E3, of course. But if you were paying attention, I'm getting shot in the back by a 268 anyways, so unless the 268 misses, I'm gonna die here. And yeah, I die. But as you can see, I still managed to get out 7,500 damage on this defeat by paying attention to the situation. Alright, let's go on to the Tortoise replay on Safe Haven. Okay, so starting off this replay, let's take a look at the matchmaking again. That's what I do at the start of every single battle. I'm top tier, and the Tortoise, when it's top tier, is disgustingly good, especially on city maps. You can literally just outtrade anything. You can outtrade like 3 tanks at a time even. Maybe even 4 tanks at a time, especially if they're lower tier. So what I like to do on this map, especially when I'm top tier, or in a heavy tank of some kind, which, you know, the Tortoise is kind of a heavy tank. I like to go and I like to do two things. If I'm a little bit faster, like if I'm in a, and if I have a lot of armor, like if I'm in a 279E, I'll go through this pathing right here, and I'll try to make it up to this corner as quick as I can. And from this corner, I know it's hard to see, you can farm enemy tanks that are coming out of their spawn, and you get like 2 or 3 free shots at the beginning of the game. But since I'm pretty slow, what I'm going to do instead is head over to the tunnel. The tunnel, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but I've been having a lot of good games just playing the tunnel. I don't know if it's because it attracts bad players or something, but I just seem to get a ton of damage from this tunnel here. So I see this Alpine Tiger. He's basically a non-threat to me. He can barely pen me. And as you can see, I immediately decide to go for his track. Now it's pretty obvious, but some players, they just get lazy and they just go for the damaging shot. But as you can see, because I tracked him, he couldn't escape. Now realistically, that guy, you can probably tell he was not a good player. I bet even if I didn't track him, he probably would have just sat in front of me. But if you imagine he was a more competent player, I might have been able to double track him there anyways and still kill him, even if he was a better player. Now since I'm top tier and since my team is already committed in here, I really want to just get in the fight. I can't be stalling, especially in the Tortoise, which only has the top speed of around 27 with a Bond Turbo. You have to be driving forward as often as you can when your team is in a winning position or when your team is pushing a flank that you're on. So here I'm playing pretty aggressive on this VK. I somehow bounced this shot. I out DPM this guy by a lot. If you pay attention to how I'm angling, I'm trying to angle at around... I'm trying to angle so that my gun is as far left as it can go. What this does is it just angles your cupola a little bit. It doesn't really make it that much harder to pen, but it's just a little bit tougher of a shot than if you're just straight on to your opponents. So I would recommend doing that whenever you can in the Tortoise. And if you really want to, you can even gun block your cupola in between shots and wiggle back and forth. But I could tell that this VK just isn't that good of a player, so I didn't even bother. And plus the Tortoise's reload is so good that you hardly have time to gun block between each shot. Now I want you to pay attention to something, because this is very important. I mean, it's not very important, but it's important. Who should I shoot here in this situation? Well, I can already tell this guy's not a very good player, and he's probably not going to damage me. And even if he does damage me, I'm feeling like I need to get as much damage out as possible right now, because this is like prime. Trading with other tanks is like the prime situation to get out damage with the Tortoise. So I decided to go for the Progetto instead. Now, why do I go for the Progetto instead of the VK? This VK, he cannot escape from me. There's nothing he can do. He can try to drive around. He can back up further. He's not going to get away. I can always just get this damage whenever I want to. But this guy, he could get away. And what I'm worried about him doing is him driving away from me because he's scared and because I have a teammate here, and driving out into the open up on top of this this platform here, so that my tanks over here will be able to shoot him. So I track him. I go for a tracking shot so he can't escape, and I focus him before the VK for that reason. As you can see, I'm wiggling a little bit to try to make the VK miss my cupola. I even try to gun block him a little bit. And again, I'm just going for tracking shots whenever I can. It's just a good habit. When you get a free tracking shot, you might as well take it. Unless you're given some kind of better shot, like an engine shot, which you can't track for some reason. Now here, watch again. I tracked this guy. Now, it took me a second longer to aim this shot because I went for the track. So you could argue, aren't you wasting DPM by going for the tracking shot in a lot of these cases? Well, it kind of depends on the situation. If there's a tank who's just completely in the middle of the open, unless you're going for marks of excellence, you don't really have to go for a tracking shot because they're gonna die anyways. But if there's a tank who's close to cover, and you're only gonna get one shot in anyways, you might as well take your time and aim for the track. Because if you just shoot right away, you're not gonna get it in a second shot anyways. So you might as well just make your one shot count and make it a tracking shot so that you could potentially get more. Now here, he's pretty quick with his repair kit, so I don't get a second shot. But you could have imagined a situation in which he'd already burned his repair kit, or he just wasn't a very good player and was slow to repair his track, and I could have got an extra shot there. Now here I'm turning sideways trying to bait him out, but I actually didn't realize he was poked this far, so I turn a little bit late. So I don't get a shot in. I probably could have gotten a shot in there, I just didn't realize he was actually poked. Now the Yag peeks on us, I get a shot in. And this is a point where I look up at the minimap and I look at the score and I realize that we are losing the game. And by quite a lot as well. As you can see, we're not just down HP, we're down like 3 tanks, or 2 tanks, 3 tanks I think. And we're losing a flank. And so there are 3 different ways to determine whether you're winning or losing. And those 3 things are your map control, slash if one of your flanks is falling or if you're winning a flank. The second one is the HP difference. And the third is whether or not your team has more or less tanks than the enemy. In this case, all 3 of the conditions are telling me that we're losing this game, because we're losing a flank, our map control is poor, we're down HP, and we're down tanks. Now, for those who don't know about Team HP and how to turn it on, you just go to, I think it's, where is it? You go to Battle Notifications, Battle Report, and Missions, and it's here. And this is the Team HP difference. I would recommend putting this on because whether you're down 2,000 or 5,000 HP kind of tells you how quickly your game is about to end usually. It's a pretty good indicator. And it tells you how quickly you have to be with your actions. And I wouldn't mention this, but literally like a month ago there was like some 4K18 player who messaged me and he didn't know that this feature was in the game. So if there's a 4K18 player that didn't know, then there's probably at least one of you who didn't know about this, so I thought I should just mention it. Now what should I do in this situation? I realize we're losing. We're about to lose up here, we're about to lose in the tunnel, they're gonna push through here. We have a crossfire from this IS-3 too, which is super annoying. What should I do? Well, what I probably should have done is just left and gone this way to get out of this crossfire with this IS-3 too. Cause then I could just hold the tanks that are coming in from the south, and while not worrying about the Yag Tiger or the IS-3 too. But that's not what I decided to do, which was probably a mistake. I'm thinking that, or at least I'm just praying, that we're going to be able to kill the IS-3 too. The IS-3 too, I'm hoping, will make a mistake. That will get us out of the crossfire. After that, we can kill the Yag Tiger, and from there we can turn around and face enemies coming over this and through the tunnel. That's what I'm hoping will happen. Looking back though, this IS-3 too, if he plays properly, should not die. If he dies, it's his fault. So I was kind of relying on him playing poorly. So I'm just praying the IS-3 too, because he's the one who really needs to die right now. I break this down in preparation for him to flank, because I can see that he's probably going to flank, because he killed our M4Y. And I'm just really hoping that he'll poke here so that I can hit him. As you see, he does poke. I don't get the track shot, but I do put one in. And he dies to our E75. So that's a huge pain in our ass gone. And now I have two options. I can sit here and just farm enemies as they come in, or I can turn and push the Jagdtiger. Now what are the advantages of each? Well, if I just start farming this side right now, I'm going to get a lot of shots because I have shots right away. I have shots on these two guys, on this guy. So it'll give me a lot of damage right away. The advantage of pushing the Jagdtiger is once I kill the Jagdtiger, I only have to face enemies coming from one direction most likely. Unless in the off chance an enemy comes back through this way, which I don't think would happen. But I decided to go for the damage here, and I think this is probably the right play. I load HE for the Scorpion. I see he pulls back, so I immediately switch targets to this guy. And our E75 dies to the Jagdtiger, which is super bad, because I was kind of hoping he would cover my back from the Jagdtiger, but now I'm basically all alone and I'm getting surrounded. So once again, I either have to push the Jagdtiger or I need to deal with the top, but I kind of just do neither. Here I see the Barask is coming, so I focus him. Now here I tried to load HE because he's a two-shottable if I loaded HE. But it turns out, and I just learned this during this replay, some keyboards only allow you to press like 3 inputs at one time. So I was holding WA and then probably Shift or something. And then I tried to press 3, but my HE just didn't load. So, the more you know. So I'm focusing the Barask down. He still has his shots. In retrospect, what I actually could have done is saved my shot for the Centurion and tracked him. Because this Barask, he's going to get out his shells regardless of whether I focus him or not. This guy, he's going to be shooting non-stop. So I should really have focused the Centurion first and left the Barask. Now here I ram this guy to get a little bit of extra damage, hoping that I could kill him with one shot, but unfortunately it doesn't work out. And then since the Jagdtiger came behind, I just die. But as you can see, I managed to get out 7,500 damage. Which, to be fair, I could have probably done even more if I played better, if I made better decisions. But I'm still pretty happy with that. So I guess another reason why I showed these two replays is both of them are losses, and it kind of deals with what you should be thinking once you realize your team is losing. The Conq was a good example of what to do. The Tortoise, not as good. But hopefully you learned something from these replays. Yeah, our K91 tries, but there's nothing you can do. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm working on a special video, by the way, which should be coming up probably within a week. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline yet, but basically I surveyed a bunch of the best NA pub stars, the best NA players in random battles. I surveyed around 14 people. I collected their responses, and what I asked them was, what are the most important skills to know in World of Tanks, or the most important skills to learn? And so I'm compiling all of their answers, and I'm coming up with the 3 most important skills to know for random battles in World of Tanks. And so that's what one of my next videos will be. I'm not sure if it will be the very next video, but it's coming up. So I hope you're excited for that. Anyways, see you later.